Madam Toastmaster, members, other Toastmasters, honored guests. Homelessness may not be all bad. I wonder how much shipping containers go for. Those are the types of thoughts going through my mind as I watched the Service Master representative cut the bottom 6 inches of sewage-sodden drywall in my basement after I'd assisted him with bagging and carrying the carpet out to his truck for disposal, possibly at a hazmat facility. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is just the most recent of my adventures in home ownership. One that has left an impression. That one has left an impression on me, though. A year is not long enough to let that memory fade, as much as it will sometime. But over the next few minutes, I'm hoping to take you on a bit of a journey through my 22-year odyssey of home ownership. I know this is ostensibly an icebreaker speech. I took a more free-form interpretation of icebreaker in order to emphasize some of the storytelling aspects of it. Perhaps we can call this the housebreaker. As you may agree with me by the end, that largely through no fault of my own, that fate seems to be giving me a message. In 1996, I purchased a house in the Seattle neighborhood of West Seattle. It was a small bungalow, roughly 50 years old or so, seemingly well kept. One day, 2 or 3 weeks after we'd owned it, I got a telephone call from my fiancée, now wife, at the office saying there seemed to be a lot of bees in the house, in one of the downstairs bedrooms. We decided that she should just close the door, leave the house for the moment. And I don't recall how we found the exterminator that we called. But by the time I got home, I could see the exterminator was on site. My wife was outside of the house. And we could see hundreds of bees teeming against the window of that room. I think at that time I called the real estate agent, trying some way to back out of the deal. In the course of investigating, the exterminator opened up a part of the ceiling and the wall of that room and described it as the largest bee's nest he's ever seen in his life. I'd had a pest inspection on the house, and somehow that area was missed. The real estate agent was not a great deal of help. But it was a few weeks into the home ownership. I did not take that as the omen that it might have been. In 1998, married with 1 child and another one under consideration, the bee house was no longer of sufficient size. We decided to look elsewhere. I don't recall how we found the one that we located, but property far east Seattle in an area called Fall City, in the foothills of the Cascades. It was on an 1.5 acres of land, but with kind of a park-like setting around it, made it feel like hundreds of acres. Had an on-site private well, and for some reason had been used as a bit of a boarding house in the past, not an informal boarding house where there were a lot of colorful characters kind of coming and going. I don't know what the full story was on that, but that was what we were told. There was a pony there at one time too. There was a little pen in the backyard that at one point had one. There were really no issues with that house. That was kind of it didn't reinforce the negativity I'd experienced earlier, aside from the occasional bear, the occasional intoxicated driver that was high-centered on the boulder outside the front of the driveway. Aside from that, the only disaster there is that since I sold it, it's doubled in value. I'm no longer in Seattle. After 5 years in the mountains, we moved here to Terrace Park, the land of my youth, and we purchased an older, largely unrenovated house that I took almost an immediate dislike to. Certainly, as they say, location, location, location. And so that being the house that really would define my kid's childhood, it didn't really define mine. It ended up being the exact same the type of money pit that I expected it to be, between replacement windows, under foundation drainage systems, replacement of a sunroom with prefab sunroom with walls and a roof. In the end, it was a costly undertaking. Then the last straw was the next door neighbor, or the back neighbor, carved his lot in half and built a house effectively in our backyard. That literally we could watch the TV with them by sitting in our kitchen. So that, coupled with the last school levy, we decided maybe looking somewhere else was in our future. But at 13 years, that was certainly the place that I had longest. But did I decide to go to a condo or an apartment or move into an RV after that? I did not. Locust Hill Road in Pierce Township is a neighborhood that I'd never heard of before. Prior to visiting it with a realtor in April of 2015. It was everything that Terrace Park was not. Fully forested, private, very quiet neighborhood. Although we kind of had the abstract idea of moving, the availability of a place like that made those plans very concrete. We moved in, very little loss, theft on the part of the movers, but the honeymoon period was very limited. Within 30 days, a Duke transformer failure sent several hundred volts of power into the house for a 4 to 6 hour period, destroying a variety of electrical equipment. It's likely that the property would have caught fire and burned down if it was left much longer. Given the aftermath of that, bees would have been a welcome addition. Duke's insurance company covered a small percentage of the loss there, and life goes on for a year or so until a drain pipe failure backed 6 inches of sewage into the basement. Which brings us back to where we began. Do I have any business attempting to own a house? Based on my experiences in the 4 that I've owned, I think not. However, now that I work from home, not having one would complicate things. Certainly, but could it be on wheels? Assuming that I can convince my wife to do it, we're going to be going adventure camping. Surely my luck with vehicles is better than my luck with houses. So you may see me in one of these in the near future. Thank you very much, man.